Elden Ring Nightreign is officially out and is unsurprisingly taking the entire gaming landscape by storm yet again, like From Software usually does whenever they drop their latest games these days. There's not a single developer that is operating at the level of pedigree or quality like From Software in the world right now, in my humble opinion. They are, by and large, the premier game development studio. Every game that they've released has been nothing but modern masterpieces back to back, and yes, that also includes Dark Souls 2. I love that game as well. So when the rest of the industry has been faltering and suffering layoffs and being drenched in ideology and more, FromSoft has stood stalwart like Udex Gundyr himself guarding that flame in Dark Souls 3. And the industry has been changed for the better due to FromSoft's involvement within it. They've been pioneers of creating core unique gameplay mechanics that have changed the way that people perceive how games work these days. It's incredible how far their influences have reached. Games like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor, they adhere to FromSoft's design, and that's really cool. Hell, even Claire Obscure's battle system, Tainted Grail, and you got entire Souls-like games such as Lords of the Fallen and more. We are all better for From Software being here, is what I'm trying to say. So color me surprised when I saw the announcement for Nightreign, which is a full-blown multiplayer spin-off title featuring the lands between, but it's like Fortnite sort of. It also has a shrinking zone map, loot to pick up that also unironically does the whole, you know, white weapons are the weakest and orange weapons are the best, like it's Borderlands or Destiny. Although so far you can't twerk in Nightreign. So far. We'll see in the future, who knows. I'll admit, fellas, though, my initial thoughts upon Nightreign's announcement was simply one word, which was why? Why would From Software do this? They're not exactly known for this kind of game, and well, looking at how things have gone down already with Nightreign, I feel as if my worst fears might come true, and the industry will do nothing but learn the worst lessons from really all of this. As you can see here, FromSoft has confirmed that well over 2 million people have already bought and played Nightreign, and the game literally just launched. We're talking not even a full day when they announced that milestone. Not including taxes, this means that From Software and Bandai Namco have already made like over $100 million in profit from Nightreign already, which is, yes, as insane as it sounds, but it's true. So I think it's safe to say that Nightreign is a success, and From Software has likely already made back their investment and then some in literally not even one day on the market. And while this may be seen as a good thing for FromSoft, which I mean it is, because that's great, no layoffs for them, which mean thank God for that, but I'm also worried that the industry is going to look at this and go, see, we do need to make more live service, always online experiences in the future because people will buy these things. Because we can succeed like Nightreign or Helldivers did instead, except they're not understanding what has led to such a success like this happening in the first place. Nightreign didn't just randomly come out of nowhere and make literally tens of millions of dollars overnight for nothing. This level of performance is solely based on the brand recognition of not only Elden Ring as a franchise, but From Software's pedigree for quality products. You can't just manifest a Nightreign level achievement money-wise or something just out of thin air. The game is doing what it's doing because people trust From Software to give them a good product when they pay them. Because based on their track record, that's literally all From Software does anyways. Plus, Elden Ring was expensive to make, clearly. For those unaware, the original Elden Ring went into development in 2017, right after Dark Souls 3's final DLC was finished. It then took 5 years for From Software to make Elden Ring in total. The game, even to this day, is a marvel of game design, and is easily considered to be one of the best games of all time by many, especially, and it completely swept the award season, and I mean rightfully so. It just destroyed everything around it, even submerging God of War Ragnarok in its light. I mean, Elden Ring was just devoid of all the Western ideology nonsense for the most part. It came out when the industry, in a Western sense anyways, was absolutely just hell-bent on ensuring the future of games would be full of all sorts of that kind of nonsense. It was like a golden light that pierced the bleak darkness that was trying to consume all video games for the rest of time. But it really wasn't only that. Elden Ring was expensive as hell to make too. From what I could find online, Elden Ring's budget was around $200 million, which may sound like a lot, I mean it is, but Elden Ring has since made well over $1 billion and then some on the base game alone. Then you look at Shadow of the Erdtree, which sold somewhere in the 5 million plus copies when that released too, making From Software a few $100 million and then some. And now with Nightreign, they're like 3 for 3 in terms of massive successes with this Elden Ring IP. A lot of reviews for Nightreign claim that the game reuses a lot of assets from other games that FromSoft has made, which I mean, that is not a negative. FromSoft has been reusing assets since literally forever. Hell, even the weapon weapon icons in Elden Ring are quite literally a one-to-one copy and paste pretty much from Dark Souls, even the weapons themselves. After all, when Hidetaka Miyazaki, who created the concept of Soulsborne games, said that Dark Souls as a franchise was officially over, well, he kind of lied actually. Because if you ask me, Elden Ring is basically Dark Souls 4, and since you now have bosses from older Dark Souls games like the Duke's Dear Freya, the Nameless King, and so on suddenly just appearing in Nightreign all of a sudden, this just kind of confirms that the Dark Souls and Elden Ring universes are, as many theorized, hell, even I did some videos when Elden Ring first came out, like all the way back as you're seeing on screen right now, that even I theorized that Elden Ring was pretty much a nexus point for From Software's games. I mean, the world that Elden Ring takes place in is literally called the Lands Between. Doesn't help that so many weapons, even enemies, show up in both Elden Ring and Dark Souls that look identical too, even magic. So Elden Ring represents the natural evolution, if you will, of what Dark Souls was aiming for. And with Nightreign, it proves that Elden Ring is no longer just a game anymore. It's now a bona fide franchise at this point. The existence of Nightreign does make sense in the grand scheme of things too when you really think about it. Obviously, modern game development is really expensive and companies look for any way they can to cut costs and speed up development time. The reality is that when I first saw Nightreign get announced and I saw that they were pretty much reusing the open world format of Elden Ring's map for a multiplayer game now, while yes, I was disappointed because I'm not really into multiplayer games as much these days, it still made sense. This game has cost cutting and smart reusing of assets all over it, and that's not a bad thing, by the way. There's no way this game also costed anywhere near what the original Elden Ring did at all either. The whole game's design, it feels like a weird mod or game mode a fan would probably cook up in their room, but to give in to actual professional game designers to make instead. Look, I'm not saying Nightreign is somehow bad. Clearly it's found an audience and then some, but it does prove how smart FromSoft have and are becoming with every single release that they have. Because there's no way they're not also making an Elden Ring 2 in the background. I think we can all agree that's a given. However, it will take years for obvious reasons, and in the meantime, you need stuff to make money to help fund future development costs. And Nightreign is kind of the gold standard ace in the hole, if you will, for what the industry has been trying to replicate and has instead been failing at for a really long time now. Because the game is an asset flip in every single way pretty much. Yes, sure, there's some new enemies here or there, but the majority of what was already in Elden Ring is here. It's not really surprising either. I mean, Elden Ring at its base game has more weapon types and varieties than multiple other games combined and then some that released around it and before and even after, honestly, too. You have tons of swords and whips and spears and hammers and axes, not to mention all the magic and what all the special arts of war can do and then some. The game is like this perfect toolbox, if you will, of what they can do in the future. Personally, I think the idea of a roguelite but made with an Elden Ring is actually kind of genius, because it is the perfect kind of game that's like a setup for such an idea to work really well. You could load into an area, fight enemies, open things up, find weird weapons, because there's literally over already 100 of them made in the base game, all the armor, the relics, accessories, and so on. It just makes sense for a game like this to exist. Of course, despite it sounding good on paper, it's not exactly going as well in every regard. Firstly, its reviews from critics have been, well, a little all over the place if I'm being real. As seen here, Nightreign scored a 77 on PS5, where the majority of the reviews came from. The Xbox version is much higher, but also has a much smaller amount of reviews within it too. And the point remains that in terms of the Soulsborne games that they've made, Nightreign is, officially, unfortunately, the lowest rated, which doesn't really surprise me considering what this game is. And although people have said this means From Software is now a live service company, not really. This comes from PC Gamer all the way back in January 2025, and it reads, Elden Ring Nightreign is not what we consider a live service game, says From Software. We wanted to have a game that felt like a complete package. As Junya Ishizaki, the first-time director of Nightreign, said himself, with Nightreign, we wanted to have a game that felt like a complete package out of the box on the day of purchase, so everything is unlockable. Everything is contained with that purchase. It's not what we would consider a live service game, Ishizaki would continue. Of course, we are concentrating on the release of Nightreign first and foremost, but we will make considerations after the game's release, especially in the form of post-release updates, balance updates, things like this that we've done with previous games. This will definitely be a priority going forward. For anything else, we're still in the process of thinking about the possibilities. So if you hear anyone saying they're turning this into Fortnite, no, they're not actually. It's a weird experiment, yes, absolutely. But as of now, anyways, don't expect a battle pass or like a premium shop where you can buy, Nike shoes and put them on your character like in Fortnite. Nightreign is still unapologetically From Software at its core and still adheres to their way of doing things uniquely. So no, the game doesn't have premium premium currencies like, I don't know, Elden coins or something, and then you spend that to buy a more revealing outfit for a character. Despite Nightreign being a multiplayer-focused spin-off of Elden Ring, it is still at its core a game that is, as the director said, intended to be feature-completed release. You can play it right now, get your experience, and it's probably worth what you spent on it. I bought the game myself because, well, I gotta know what this is all about, obviously, and I'm a big, massive, From Software fan to begin with, so I gotta play it. And I'm okay with FromSoft doing a little weird experience here or there in between their huge releases myself. And frankly, I wish more big game studios made weird spin-off games more often. Like, okay, I'm not saying From Software should just make a million Nightreign multiplayer games in the future, no. But I would, absolutely, love a 20 to 30 hour From Software single-player experience for like $40 myself. I would buy that. You kidding me, dude? If they just made a game around the same size as like Demon's Souls again, which is not that big of a game, especially when you compare it to, say, the other games. But listen, I love Demon's Souls. That remake that was on PS5, that was S tier, dude. I loved it so much. If they gave me a game like that for $40 or $50 max asking price, and it's not 100 hours long, but much shorter and linear focused, and instead encourages New Game Plus runs aplenty, oh hell yeah, dude. Give me that right now. Take my money. I will buy that. I mean, me personally, I know this is not a popular opinion, but I don't really want From Software to make a ton of open world games myself either. Look, I like Elden Ring, but I don't even consider it top 3 games From has made for me anyways. Mostly because it's just too big. That subsequent playthroughs for me anyways is not what I look for when it comes to replayability, which is a core thing with these games. Don't get me wrong, okay? That first playthrough through Elden Ring, magical, but I still prefer me a game size and design wise like the first or third Dark Souls game over Elden Ring any day of the week. I could replay Dark Souls over and over again, no problemo, because sure, it's not a small game, but I mean, when you compare its size to Elden Ring, it's like throwing a house into the Grand Canyon. I personally want From to return to that smaller, more focused game design myself, like Bloodborne even, because the best parts of Elden Ring for me anyways were the legacy dungeons, because unsurprisingly, they felt more like I was playing Dark Souls again. Nightreign, however, is this weird shift where I understand why it exists and all of that, but I personally don't want From Software to focus on tons of multiplayer games going forward, because remember, they also got Duskbloods coming out next for the Nintendo Switch 2, which is yet another multiplayer focused title and also a new IP as well. But I hope in the future From returns more to their roots. I would actually love like a straight up Metroidvania made by From Software themselves. Like I'm talking straight up 2D side scrolling, like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but it's, From Software making it instead. Now an Elden Ring spin-off title made as a side scroller, hell yeah, brother, sign me up for that. Oh my god, I would play that day one. However, I do think with how well Nightreign has clearly already done that Ishizaki and his team are definitely gonna double down on this one. I mean, how can't they? I mean, Nightreign hit over 300,000 players on Steam alone within 30 minutes of launch. Currently, as of this video being made, as you can see, it's sitting in the high 200,000s, which is actually crazy because the game came out midweek too. It's not even the weekend yet when that got happened. And that being said, the game has, well, a lot of problems that are also rightfully being brought up too. Here's this IGN article titled, Elden Ring Nightreign's massive Steam launch tarnished by mixed user reviews over lack of duos co-op voice chat. Yeah, you heard that right. So Nightreign is either one player or 3, but no duos, unfortunately, which is very weird. You're probably going, wait, what, why? Good question. Nobody really knows the answer yet. For some reason, From Software just doesn't allow you and a friend to play together, even if you guys wanted to. Instead, you need 2 other friends, or you're all SOL and just need to play solo, and yes, it's as stupid as it sounds, I agree with you. Why you can't just queue with 2 people and then grab a random, I have no idea, but this is just a weird oversight on their part that frankly, I'm kind of surprised it even exists in the first place. But it doesn't even stop there. The game also doesn't have voice chat in-game. Yeah, that is another very bizarre and WTF thing to not have in a game, where stuff like communication is absolutely 100% vital to the gameplay experience for very obvious reasons. Okay, the game does have a pinging system like other games, but no, you can't speak in-game unless you invite that other person to a party chat, I guess, and that's hoping that the other person you match with randomly both wants to talk to you, which means, let's be real, probably not, or even has a microphone to speak into. Oh yeah, and if you were hoping to play on PlayStation and play with your PC buddies or vice versa, sorry, but you can't do that either, because Nightreign has 0 crossplay at release. No word if it'll even come in the future either, but this is also one of the most bizarre things about this game, especially when so many other games these days have crossplay already enabled, because obviously it allows your overall gameplay experience to have more potential players if everyone can play together. Duh, common sense, I know. But here it just isn't. PC's only with PC, Xbox is Xbox, and PlayStation 5 players can either play play with other PS5 or I guess PS4 players, and that's it. Yes, it's as stupid as it sounds and seems more like a limitation on From Software's part more so than anything else, because all of these consoles and PCs are capable of this, we know that. But to me, the combination of no crossplay and no in-game voice chat is kind of insane because of what this game is obviously trying to be. How the hell are you marketing a game like this where death is coming for you all the time and you obviously need to work together, but you can't communicate with people? This basically just puts players into three camps pretty much going forward. You either play with friends, which bold of From Software to assume that everyone has two friends to play with at any given moment, and this is obviously considered the most optimal way to play. Or you play alone pretty much, and then you either play with randoms and the experience ends up being you probably being alone for like 90% of the time that you're playing, because let's be honest, your teammates are probably going to immediately just leave you alone to go do whatever it is they want to do. And yes, the scenario of your teammates saying F you to working together, running away, and then dying somewhere alone in like a dark corner of a ditch in the map as you're suddenly left alone surrounded by hordes of monsters, and then they like disconnect or leave the game because you didn't revive them. Now they have to like watch you play the game instead. Yeah, that's gonna be a very common experience, I would assume, for many people who play Nightreign. That does not sound fun at all. Look, I have no doubt that many runs will be ruined because the people you randomly play with will just not be team players at all, and not every player is like that, let's be real, which means you're kind of at the mercy of random morons most of the time. You can play alone, however, from all the reviews I saw in Nightreign, playing alone like in offline mode, that's actually the real hard mode of this game. Because yeah, you can play offline, sure, this then gives you NPC teammates instead of real players, obviously. And of course, while that's nice and all, it's not going well for many players either. And apparently, the solo play offline mode is so hard for most players that FromSoft has already confirmed that they're going to be balancing that mode specifically about a week after release from now. Here's what FromSoft said themselves. The following improvements for solo expeditions will be added to the game. The effect automatic revival upon defeat, which allows revival once per night boss battle, will be added to solo expeditions. The amount of runes gained will be increased. Thank you for your support. Oh, so right now, that isn't even implemented. Oh wow, so if you die even once playing alone, that's it for you. Yeah, they weren't kidding about that difficulty then. Oh yeah, every full run of this game, assuming you even live long enough, should last you about 45 minutes. So it's gotta suck to get curb stomped in single player and then your NPC teammates can't revive you because the game doesn't allow it, I guess. But if only you had two friends with similar schedules like you to play the game all the time, like From Software intended, like that's just very unrealistic. I mean, can we agree on that? Then you could be, I guess, saved by your friends all the time, but I don't know, man. I just think this game personally should have been single player focused first and then multiplayer second. But instead they did it the other way around where all your previous games were not like this. That does seem like a bizarre decision if I'm being honest. But this has also led to, well, this is from Games Radar and it reads, Elden Ring Nightreign is immediately From Software's worst reviewed game on Steam. This is not the Elden Ring you are looking for. As they say here, I wonder if most people would much rather FromSoft stuck to making what it does best. That certainly explained the current Steam reviews for Elden Ring Nightreign, which came out yesterday and quickly became FromSoft's worst reviewed game on Steam. Personally, I would have preferred that myself, mostly because to me, these games are the epitome of a solo lonely experience through a hostile land, and I really wouldn't want to say play Dark Souls 1 again, but with like other people, even if I could, mostly because as I read and comb through reviews from players on Steam at least, they are complaining that besides the whole no crossplay and voice chat not really existing and so on, that From Software has also buffed many of the boss's health pools and made them even harder than they were in the earlier network test that players played in. And honestly, when I look at the gameplay of Nightreign and I see three people facing off against some big boss, is it just me or does it just look like Monster Hunter to you as well? Because that's the vibe I get when this is like, of course, going to be even harder because, well, you know, it's a Soulsborne game or whatever. But it's a big reason why I'm very against ever, summoning help in these sorts of games too. Because one is because, yes, my ego will take a hit, but two, because whenever you do summon help, the bosses obviously get a boost in health or even damage to compensate for the added firepower of another NPC or player. And personally, for me anyways, when you face a boss in one of these games and now they're buffed because you have help, it doesn't make the boss seem more interesting or really fun to fight. If anything, it just feels more like a mess, and it tends to make bosses feel more like damage sponges than these articulated design fights, if that makes any sense. But the whole gist of Nightreign is personally just not what I look for in an experience like this. You get like 15 minutes per day within a 3-day cycle to get stronger. You spend that first 15 landing, gaining weapons and such, then you fight a mini boss. Day 1 ends, assuming you live, of course, then you repeat it again on day 2, but obviously new things are happening. Then you get to day 3, then you fight one of the unique Night Lord bosses, which there are 8 of them in the game. And as long as you beat, I think it's about 4 of the the 8 Night Lords, I could be wrong, but then you gain access to the game's big bad and then reach like an ending, I guess. Then there's also the classes, and from what I gather, the most OP characters are apparently Iron Eye, which is like the archer class because he can make enemies take more damage and shoot infinite arrows safely from a distance to cause damage. And then you have people like Wildler, which is the guy on the cover of the game who's kind of like a grapple hook melee dude that can cause big damage. And then some of the weaker classes at release anyways are apparently the Recluse, because she has this magic cocktail mechanic that is very skill dependent on how the player uses it. And then you also have the Revenant, which is the class that relies basically on summoning spirit ashes, if you will, if I remember correctly. There's not really a character that perfectly matches how I want to play the game specifically, which is usually sword and shield and two-hand swords with faith-based magic and such. Well, maybe to a degree, but not exactly how I would play these games, I guess. And I don't know, man, maybe it's because there are classes and they're treated like heroes in like a hero shooter. That's kind of a problem for me. I kind of wish you could just make your character how you want, like in other From Software games. It would allow for more unique identity, but I guess the reason why they didn't go down that route is simply because some YouTuber will probably find the best build combo and then everybody will just, copy and do that. But that being said, either way, this game is still a mega hit. And before I go, there's one more fear, or thought I guess, that I had while thinking about Nightreign's overall success, which is that with so many AAA studios working on live service or multiplayer focused games right now, that they will probably take the wrong lessons from Elden Ring's success here. They'll think that this means players actually want more live service multiplayer games, not realizing that the only reason why this was successful in the first place is because it's uniquely From Software ultimately in the end, and that this sort of game would not work nor sell like it has with some, new IP, and that it's only doing what it's doing because of the pedigree of the developers behind it. You don't just gain this level of respect and blind loyalty, if you will, from seemingly nowhere. It's built over years, and ensuring that you don't at any point screw over the consumer to fill your pockets. But I think the industry, especially the executives who obviously don't play video games, will just look at Nightreign succeeding and go, see, people do want these sorts of games. Yes, they want more Elden Ring, not a live service Horizon Zero Dawn spin-off, or some crappy imitation of Dead by Daylight, or another battle pass, whatever, royale shooter where you fill it with diverse cartoony characters again. Let me repeat this because I know some will misunderstand either way. Just because Elden Ring Nightreign succeeded does not mean that this is some trend that the industry can now replicate or should. And 9 times out of 10, the studios or companies who think they can copy what From Software did here are going to be in for a rude awakening when their games don't nearly hit a similar level of achievement, and they're all going to think, oh, 9 out of 10s will be that 1 out of 10 that succeeds. They all think that, and it never happens. Remember, this game is doing well because it's built upon the solid foundation of years of Soulsborne games made by the masters of that specific subgenre. Don't think for a second this means people want this from other franchises. Not everything needs to be always online or live service. Yes, I know, Nightreign isn't technically live service, but anyone ripping this off will definitely add their own cash shop and then some, cause because people are really greedy, obviously. So, whatever. While Nightreign is a massive success in its own very unique way of delivering such a game, it is also a problem that I'm worried the industry will try to replicate and just end up wasting millions and years of time again for nothing. So you can call it a threat, a problem, whatever you want. Nightreign proves that AAA will still learn nothing from this in the end either way, if I had to guess. And I look forward to the inevitable imitation game that crashes and burns that thinks it can too be the next Nightreign. But what do you think about all this? Did you buy the game? If not, why? Should From Software continue down this path or abandon it in the future? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.